Am I the asshole here for telling my dad that I won't come to his house anymore because of his new relationship? I, 21 female, lived a good life growing up. My parents were college sweethearts who got together during their sophomore year of university, married at 23, and birthed me at 25. My dad was a financial analyst who worked 50 hours, and my mum was a nurse who worked 36 hours, as she worked multiple 12-hour shifts a week. My parents brought in almost over $100K annually, and I went to a great school growing up. All in all, I had a very average suburban family life. When I was 18, I moved to DC for college, and that was when my parents' marriage went downhill. By the time I came home for spring break, they announced to me that they'd be getting a divorce, but that there was no bad blood between them, and they simply just weren't compatible anymore, and both wanted different things. It deeply impacted me, but they stayed the same, and it felt like the same parents that I had grown up with. They just weren't legally married anymore. A few weeks ago, my dad broke his leg and has had trouble getting up and down the steps of his house, or pretty much doing anything. I went over to check on him just to see how he was doing and progressing. He still lives in my childhood home after the divorce, as my mum wanted something a bit closer to a beach, and a lot of my neighbors that I grew up around still live in the same houses. When I used my spare key to get in, I saw our neighbor, let's call her Kira, in the kitchen making him a soup. The neighborhood has always been kinda close-knit, so it wasn't too surprising that our neighbors were helping another neighbor in need, but it did rub me the wrong way, as Kira just turned 18 in mid-June, and her parents, who were closer to my dad than she was, were nowhere to be found. Their cars weren't even in their driveway. I asked Kira what was happening, and she said that she just wanted to help out a bit. I didn't think too much into it, and went up to my dad's room, where he seemed fine, but he didn't even look up, and he was completely shirtless. I asked him why that was, and he said that it was comfortable. But before I left for college, he never thought that it was acceptable for any adult man to be shirtless around me, no matter what. So I wondered why he was so comfortable being shirtless around someone else's barely legal daughter. When I left, I called my mum and I told her about it. She told me that another neighbor had called her a few days ago and told her about Kira and Dad's relationship. Turns out, she's been going over there twice a week since the week after her 18th birthday, and since my dad broke his leg, she's been over there every day from the moment her dad leaves for work to 10 minutes before he comes home. I called my dad the day after and asked him about his relationship with her and the concerns that the neighbors had, and he reluctantly admitted that he and Kira had something going on, but that it was nothing serious, and he was just having fun. I reminded him that she's literally younger than I am and just graduated high school in May. He said that while he knew that it was problematic, it was legal, and they were both consenting adults. I hung up on him, but when I called him back, I said that I will no longer come over to his place because I cannot fathom the idea of him being intimate with the little girl that he watched grow up and play games with me. He said that I was being dramatic and that I should get the little girl version of her out of my head, as he had. My boyfriend agrees that it's kinda weird, but I do know that maybe I was a tiny dramatic, but I don't know. In the comments, not the asshole. It just amazes me that you, as an adult man or woman, can watch their kids' childhood friends grow up only to be dating after they turn legal age. It's just disgusting, and I would wonder when it really started. Is she the reason why they divorced? OP says, we moved into her neighborhood when I was 5. She was 2 when my dad first met her, and he attended all of her parties, including her high school graduation party, and that makes me sick that he was more than likely already having sexual thoughts about her as he watched her and her other high school-aged friends have fun. Not the asshole. I would tell her parents though. It's hard to believe that he wasn't dealing with her before she was 18. OP says, my biggest fear, even though I know it's so likely, since it's literally been barely 3 months since her birthday. OP, please tell that girl's parents what is happening. She may be 18, but hopefully they can talk some sense into her. If they throw her out, you gotta know exactly where she'll run to. Gross. Your dad is gross. I don't give a crap if they're consenting adults. See, it'd be weird if she was some random 18-year-old college freshman that he happened to meet at like a coffee shop or something, but the fact that this is a girl that he literally watched grow up makes it disgusting. Yeah, it just, again, reminds me of that story with the daughter that went off to that college town and met someone similar in age to OP's dad in this situation, but unfortunately the family being so vocally and adamantly opposed to them only drove her further to that man. So in situations like this, yes, it is reprehensible, yes, it's disgusting, yes, it's not good at all, but you have to approach this so lightly so that you don't actually drive them closer together because of the community's animosity. It's disgusting that you can't just run people like him out of town and make an example out of him, because that is clearly predatory behavior. But to the point, to the title, OP's not the asshole for telling her dad she won't come to his house. I would feel the same. I would cut contact with that man. Like, who the hell do you think you are? This is disgusting. This is not how you raised me. I can't imagine that her father or her parents would be too fond of learning about your relationship with their daughter. I imagine they'd probably come over and break his legs. Broken legs would be the least of his concern after this relationship is made so public, and frankly, I'm surprised it hasn't happened already. He's got a lot of angry energy coming his way if justice is to be served. And now, onto the update. It's been like 2 days since my first post, and so many people asked for an update, and I definitely feel better when I get people's advice. But even before I made the post, it had been maybe a week since the incident, so I've had time to process everything since my post. Anyways, I've had very limited contact with my dad since this situation. I started my fall classes on the 27th, and before what happened, I spoke to him every day and told him about my classes, but I've stopped and will only respond very small sentences if he texts me first because of how disgusted I am with him, and I'm highly considering going no contact. Yesterday morning, I convinced my mum to reach out to her mum over Facebook, as she is obviously closer to her than I am, which she did. To paraphrase the message, she told her about the relationship and that the entire neighborhood knew of the relationship, and how she's concerned about the power dynamic as the timeline doesn't make sense, since it's hard to go from cordial neighbors to having sex all within just a week. Her mum responded that she would be disgusted if she found out what my mum was saying was the truth, and that she and her husband, Kira's father, would look into it. This morning, my mum spoke to the woman who was the one that told her about the relationship, and apparently there has been no peace in the neighborhood this morning, and everyone's talking about it. Apparently, Kira's dad and my dad had a very heated argument that ended with my dad storming away in his car, that Kira hasn't been seen since yesterday afternoon, and even this morning, and her car has been parked in the same spot all day. My mum texted Kira's mum to ask about what happened after she got the news, and Kira's mum told her that she went through her phone when she fell asleep on the couch last night. Everyone knows that Kira's password is her birthday, and found messages that had subtle hints of flirting when she was still 16 and 17, but not enough to actually go to the police and say that they had a sexual relationship before her 18th birthday. But 2 days after her party, my dad started sending her messages talking about how beautiful she looked, which Kira thanked him for, and sent a few flirty messages of her own. The messages turned sexual very fast, and they went from texting each other about movies or Kira asking for advice on her car before her birthday to him asking her to do things to him and her happily accepting. According to the neighbor, Kira's dad went over to my dad's place at around 6 a.m. and beat on his door until he answered. A lot of people on that street have jobs or have kids that have school, and it woke them all up. They argued, Kira's dad shoved him, and the HOA man came over and broke it up, which is why my dad left. When I was getting ready for class at around 12 today, he texted me telling me that I didn't have to get Kira's parents involved, as she was an adult and that we could have talked it out as adults. I told him that he was still my dad, and I love him as the man that raised me, but I'm gonna love him from a major distance, as I can't get it out of my head that he more than likely groomed this girl. He said that I took their entire relationship out of context and that Kira was a willing participant. I told him that if I was in her spot and he was her dad, then he would be pissed. He completely ignored that message and started a new conversation about how legal was legal, and despite her parents interfering, Kira wasn't going to stop loving him, and he wasn't going to stop what he was doing just because the parents of an adult got involved. Not the exact words, but it gets the point across. I told my mum about the conversation, and she said that she's sick thinking about the times Kira came over when we were a bit younger, maybe 16 and 13, and how he might have already been having ideas about her, and how good she'd look when she turned 18. I don't know when I'll stop looking at my dad as a predator, as I know how much I love the comfortable father-daughter relationship we had, but I won't allow him to normalize what he's doing, and can't bring myself to even ask him what he's gonna eat for dinner. Once again, thanks for the advice, guys, and as her parents are just finding out, I'll probably have more updates depending on what happens. In the comments, Danny Bake says, "Your dad's gross, and she was very much being groomed, which is so sad. I also feel sorry for her parents, as clearly this was someone they have trusted around their daughter her whole life, only for him to end up being a predator. Honestly, I'd cut your losses. As much as you say you love your dad, is that love strong enough to ignore the glaring red flags?" OP says, "You're completely right. I don't think my love for him is enough to look past what he's done. I don't even think them breaking up could fix it, as it still happened, and he's still a weirdo." He is so fixated on it being legal because deep down, he knows how disgusting he is. This must be so hard to process. OP says, "Really hard, actually. Mainly because I can't believe that the man who protected me against dangerous men in the world was just like the men who he told me to avoid. I haven't spoken to him over a phone call since, and refused to text him first, so I believe that I'm making bits and pieces of progress. Keep that peace and don't speak to him." Ugh, if I found this out about my dad, it would turn my stomach. Bizarrely, I think his defiance and lack of shame might be even worse than what he's done. It's kinda terrifying. Yeah, I agree with that. Him just being like, "She's legal. She's of legal age. What's the problem? Oh, just because the parents of a legal adult woman got involved, you think that's gonna stop me?" It's exactly like that college town relationship. And unfortunately in that one, I'm so sad every time I see it. She's goddamn engaged with his child now. Why does history keep repeating? Why do these disgusting offenses to humanity keep happening? I don't like it. It's reprehensible. It should not be normalized or accepted. The blow-up from her dad was bound to happen. The hypocrisy from OP's dad to not even answer the question of being like, "Well, you know what? It's not happening to you right now, so that's not something I have to think about, but screw you, got mine." Hypocrisy just tastes different when I'm the one doing it, so we should accept that, right? No, ew. Again, reprehensible, disgusting. I don't blame OP if she blocks him out of her life and ditches him. But at the same time, I don't know what you do to protect that woman. I don't know how you separate those two and get her to realize sleeping with this man is unconscionable, it's not going to end well, it's disgusting, he groomed her. It's all so tiresome. I wish her nothing but the best, but I don't believe there is going to be a good outcome here. I hope there is, but chances are, from what I've seen in the past, it doesn't always go the way that we want it to. Our next post is by user SignificantMetal8071, and it's titled, "Would I be the asshole if I didn't report my coworker to HR? I, 29 female, am working in IT with a team of over 10 men and 1 woman coworker. Her name is Sandy, fake name. Sandy and I sit near each other in our office, and we speak during the day, but never too much in detail or too personal stuff. I don't speak about my husband all day, but it's definitely no secret that I'm married. Normally, I take my lunch outside of the office, but today Sandy asked if I would like to have lunch with her at a local place. We had lunch, and we spoke about the usual stuff like work, vacations, and just stuff like that. When we came back to the office, I told her that I'm going to the bathroom to freshen up. I'm wearing braces, so after each meal I have to take care of that. And she said that she's coming too. I don't know how things degenerated from her speaking about getting a haircut and me swishing water, but as soon as I finished, she took my face and kissed me on the lips. This took me greatly by surprise, and I took a step back and asked her what she's doing. She was immediately apologetic, said that she must have misunderstood things wrong. I told her that I'm married. She kept saying sorry and left the bathroom. We did not have an argument, but the rest of the day was really awkward. I had no idea she liked women. Also, I have no idea how she got the impression that I like women. Anyway, after I got home, I told my husband because I wanted to know if I give off the vibe that I like women. He told me that I need to report this to HR. He didn't get angry or anything, but he said this is unacceptable to happen at work. To be honest, I believe her that it was a misunderstanding, and I trust that she understood my message clearly. My husband thinks that this should be reported regardless. I don't want to cause issues, but would I be the asshole if I did not report Sandy to HR? In the comments, McButter says, "In my experience, it's best to get things documented correctly and immediately. So many things can come back to you if not documented. What if she decides to get ahead of it and say that it was you that was forward? What if someone else came forward and somehow knew that she had done this to you too? It's just best to have that conversation to cover your ass." Exactly this. OP, you don't know if she might try to twist the story and you end up the one in hot water. You need to make a report if for no other reason than to cover your own ass just in case. It was absolutely a misunderstanding on her part, and in a social setting, an apology would be adequate. However, this is a workplace. If you would report a man to HR for kissing you, then you should report her. It doesn't matter what her preferences are. It's inappropriate and needs to be dealt with by management. Plus, she doesn't know that Sandy won't try to spin it in a way that damages OP later. Better safe than sorry. She could report it in a way that she says she doesn't want follow-up, but just to have it on record in case anything were to happen later. You would not be the asshole, since it is your choice. Her conduct was extremely inappropriate and unprofessional though. I have to wonder if there have been other misunderstandings. OP says, "This is the thing. I never paid specific attention to her behavior in the past. Usually at work, we all speak of pets, have the occasional verbal tantrum over work stuff, and discuss the music that we have at the radio. Spouses are rarely mentioned unless one of the guys asks about gift or vacation ideas. My husband's opinion is that this was her attempt at a date. Attempt at a date or not, we've seen this countless times. Much like the story where OP and his partner agreed to look after their friend's child because that partner had become a single mother, and she took advantage of OP and kissed him while he was helping her get the child into the car. That was sexual assault. This is sexual assault. I don't think you'd be the asshole in general if you didn't report the coworker, but you wouldn't be doing yourself any favors, as everyone in the comments has said. Nothing in this life is certain. You can't just assume that she's not going to do anything and just let sleeping dogs lie. What if she does take action against you and gets ahead of this story? Now it's going to be a he said, she said, and it's going to be a much bigger headache than it needs to be. I think report her to HR, cover your ass, and make sure that if anything does potentially come of it from her end where she takes the lead or thinks that she has one up on you, you're already covered because you have the truth out there. And now, onto the update. So I reported my colleague to HR. After my husband kept telling me that if it was the other way around, I would report it, I did it. I told HR that I don't want any investigation or to hurt her in any way. I just want to be on the record that it happened. HR assured me that no further action would be taken unless I want it, and it will be kept anonymous. I felt so bad for doing it. I thought I made a big mistake by reporting a misunderstanding. My colleague missed work the next couple of days, and when she came back, she was visibly changed. Very annoyed. Since we still sit next to one another in the office, I behaved normally, and we don't speak about that day. Today, she scoffed when a colleague from a different department passed by. I looked at her with the corner of my eye, but she saw it, and she leaned over to me and probably felt like it was a good time to dish some tea. She told me that she's been called to the HR and given a lecture about work harassment and has a couple of in-person courses on this. I honestly froze at that moment. Sandy then proceeds to tell me that co-worker who just passed must have reported her because they were flirting, and she made some jokes that might not have landed well with that colleague. I was there looking at her like an idiot, not knowing what to say, while she went on a rant about how this place is so against LGBTQ people and you can't make a joke or flirt without someone taking offense. She told me she's just trying to find people to have fun with and encourage them to explore their options. She even gave me as an example. I tried to help you as well, but for sure you weren't ready for it. I didn't say a word and just looked at her for a second before coming back to my work. Oh lovely, it's the workplace psychopath. I felt like an idiot. I really thought she made a mistake by kissing me and defended her so much to my husband, saying that it was a simple misunderstanding and she felt so embarrassed. Now I know I was one of those people that she tries to help explore. I don't know what to do with this information. I still believe misunderstandings can happen, but I don't feel that bad for reporting her anymore. My husband was right. You guys were right. In the comments, Novelamia says, "At first it might have felt like a grey area, but now it's clear that she has a history and intention that goes beyond a harmless mistake. Reporting her was the right move to protect yourself and your work environment. It's a tough situation, but seeing her pattern makes it clear that your report was not overreacting. Protecting yourself and maintaining professional boundaries is more important than feeling guilty about a misunderstanding. You would be the arsehole if you don't go back to HR and update them. You need to let them know that she admitted to you that what she did was not on accident or an innocent misunderstanding. They need to know that she's deliberately sexually harassing and assaulting fellow employees in an attempt to force them to change their sexual identity. Cis, LGBTQ+, etc. OP says, "I fully agree with you, and I'm going to HR tomorrow to update them. I feel like an idiot for believing her when she was apologetic and embarrassed." So, she SA'd you. By the way, kissing someone without consent is SA. You need to stop feeling bad for reporting it. This is the problem in workplaces where women get away with harassment because people won't call it harassment. Yeah, I had a coworker who wouldn't stop slapping my butt. I finally had to call the corporate HR line to report it, as both the store manager and the district manager said that it was no big deal because she was a woman and I'm a man. And I ended up getting fired shortly afterwards. It's situations like that that make dealing with SA in the workplace difficult because, yeah, sometimes you really are just not believed or not taken seriously when the roles are reversed. I think it's good that OP is going and updating HR on this one because my jaw dropped to the floor when she said that. She's like, "Oh, I tried to change you, but you just weren't ready for it yet." What? Jesus Christ. What is wrong with that woman? I genuinely think she'll get fired for this one. Like, she didn't even clock that she SA'd OP, pushed the personal boundaries of a married woman, and just nonchalantly brushed that one off like it was another Tuesday, but thought that her flirting and making crude jokes with this guy was the one that got her reported. Oh yeah, she is so far from help. She is cooked, as the kids would say. I hope she gets fired. I genuinely do hope she gets fired for that. I would not feel comfortable working with someone like her. Our next post is by user lowtext1211, and it's titled, "Am I the asshole for asking my sister to give me my money back after her husband made fun of my wife's scars?" My sister had borrowed money from me almost a year ago for her husband's surgery and healthcare. They couldn't afford it, so when my sister asked me for financial help, I was hesitant, but I helped her because she's my sister, and helping her husband would mean helping her as well. I told her back then that I'm hesitant, but I will help her, as she said she'll return the money in 3 months, but she didn't, and I didn't ask her either. So now I brought it up again. I wasn't planning on asking to return the money, but her husband made fun of my wife's scars. My wife has small scars on her hand. It's not serious, just small scars that she inflicted on herself when she was 15. I was with her back then, and I put a stop to it. We are both 27, and my brother-in-law made fun of my wife when he asked her if she's still childish and asked her to cover up her hands because it's unpleasant for everyone. Both of our families were speechless, and my wife was as well. I said when we're young, we do dumb shit, and he's too drunk, so he should just shut up. He got a bit more aggressive and said that it's still unpleasant and my wife should cover up. I retaliated in my anger and told him that my wife will start covering her scars when he gives me my money back. To be honest, I get angry easily and I wanted to insult him. My wife was holding me to stop, but I told her to shut up. I ended up telling him that he's a poor man and weak who couldn't even afford his own surgery and had his wife beg for money to her brother. He got even more angry and he said he will give me my money. I said, do it right now, but you can't, because you can't even walk properly. Our families were interfering and my sister was crying. I shut my mouth because I didn't want my sister to cry, but since then, my sister has been asking me to apologize because I hurt his ego and he's in a foul mood and depressed. I told my sister that I will never apologize and that he needs to apologize to my wife, and I asked her that both of them owe me money and I want it back as soon as possible and I don't care if they are poor. In the comments, Adventurous Smile says, not the asshole. Okay, telling your wife to shut up is not on, but I also get the fact that you were defending her and wanted to hurt him. I get the anger when it comes to protecting family. When someone goes low on my family, I scrape the barrels of hell. Agree, not the asshole. And I expect telling your wife to shut up was the heat of the moment. I will say that I'm like you. You can fuck with me, but you leave my family, my wife, out of it. Because if you do, karma will break you, and I am karma. You do not go after family, in-laws, etc. He is weak and had no respect for your wife. I could not care less. I will defend my wife because she has more class and respect for family in her fingernail than he has in his body. Call the debt. He is weak and he can't afford the checks his body is trying to cash. Not the asshole. Your brother-in-law can dish it out, but he can't take it. He should try to be more respectful to someone who was kind enough to loan him money and not ask it back after 4 times the agreed timetable of repayment of the loan had expired. It's difficult to overcome the stigma of self-harm scars. I have many, and they're covered in various ways. If someone mocked my inability to manage my life, I think it would break me again. No matter how old I get, my attachment to living is tenuous at best. My husband, light of my life, knows this and can be very, very protective. It doesn't matter who it is, he will absolutely fight for me. You are not in the wrong. Your wife will always need you in her corner. Remind your family that the things that can drive you to self-harm can happen instantaneously. Make them remember that. Take from them the same dignity and respect they took from your wife. I stopped covering mine up. Let them stare. I survived shit most of the people staring can't even comprehend. I survived my own head trying to kill me on a daily basis. Every time someone makes a mean remark about my scars, I give them a long, disdainful stare or ask them if they feel better now. Because the comments say more about the people commenting than they do about you. I don't know, even when drunk, to make comments like that just says a lot about the person saying them, and any genuinely normal person would know not to make remarks like that. To me, it gives off signs of low IQ in that person, someone that I'm just not going to associate with ever. And I don't know, do you have every right to enact vengeance upon them in that moment? My heart of hearts makes me want to, but I feel like, at least for me personally, that'd cause more trouble than it's worth, though I understand, and I say it a lot, people have been murdered for less. Making remarks on your wife's self-harm scars on her hands and telling her to cover it up in front of her husband and even behind the husband's back. Them fighting words. Saying that is going to get your nose broken. You're just asking for it. And if OP had done it, I would say they're not the asshole for that. When you bring fighting words to the table, don't be surprised when you get hit. I'm surprised OP was able to control themselves in this situation. because I know a lot of people wouldn't and wouldn't want to. So, not the asshole. And now, on to the update. So this is an update for those that don't want to read my previous post. My wife has some small self-harm scars from her childhood, and my brother-in-law insulted my wife and asked her to cover them up, and when I couldn't tolerate the disrespect, I asked him to give me the money that I lent him for his surgery and healthcare. After my brother-in-law insulted my wife and asked her to cover up her scars, I wanted him to pay me my money back as soon as possible. My brother-in-law and sister said they'd give me my money back in 3 months, and it's been a year, and they still haven't. My wife told me today that my brother-in-law called her and apologized to her, so I shouldn't ask for the money because they can't afford it, and I should forgive them. I told my wife he's taking advantage of your kindness, and he apologized to you because he can't afford to pay, and he insulted you in front of everyone, and we deserve a public apology, and my wife said that she's forgiven him and doesn't want the money back, and they need that money more than us. I told her to stay away from this and let me do my thing. I will ask them again and again until they pay, but my wife said she doesn't want to, and I shouldn't either, and I should be the bigger person after brother-in-law apologized and she's forgiven him. Actually, I don't care if I get my money back. I'm just using it to get back at him. I want to humiliate him just like he humiliated my wife in front of our families, but my wife doesn't want that. So am I the asshole if I ask for my money and go behind my wife's back? In the comments, Last Dragonfly says, "They should pay you back because you let them borrow from the kindness of your hearts. I totally get where you're coming from, but the family drama is probably stressing your wife out. I think her mental health and happiness is more a priority than humiliation. The humiliation could also make her feel guilty, even though it's not her doing, but technically, it's because of her. I love that you're defending her though. By the way, your sister's husband is the asshole. Definitely, OP should never give or loan them money ever again. I think brother-in-law torched that bridge. I mean, there's 2 avenues of thought here. 1, while your wife has forgiven him, you don't have to, and are well within your right to do so. 2, is this situation worth putting you at odds with your wife? You could just let it go to appease your wife and then keep him at an arm's length and go low contact from now on. And never lend him or your sister money for anything ever again, no matter what the reason. In the end, they said they would pay it back within 3 months, and they haven't, and it's been significantly longer. You didn't gift them the money. You loaned it. You have every right to demand they pay you back, even if he hadn't disrespected your wife. He's manipulating your wife, and it's disgusting of him, but you need to decide if it's worth what it will do to the relationship you have with your wife. Only you can decide that, but definitely never give the money again, no matter what they say. Feel free to grey rock your brother-in-law and to remind him of the money that he owes you, but listen to your wife who wants no public apology. She means it. Deal with your anger, which is so excessive that you are literally entertaining ignoring your wife. Wow. I would drop everything for the wife's wishes, but I'd start calling brother-in-law the $7,000 man or however much is owed. Yeah, I'd be casually mocking him in a friendly voice every time I saw him. Maybe it's because I'm not married, but I don't understand the neutrality of the comments. It doesn't sit right with me. I feel like the brother-in-law doesn't deserve the peace that the wife wants to extend to him in this situation. It's not earned. He also shook the hornet's nest and expected not to get stung. It's not fair. In my mind, OP should be getting revenge within the law and getting that money back, however possible. But a lot of people are saying that OP should listen to his wife and kowtow to these people. I don't understand why you would do that. If you have the ability to force them to give that money back, I feel like I would take that and I would make that happen. But maybe upon doing something like that, you'd hurt your relationship with your wife because she values her relationship with them more than she values the hurt that he caused by insulting her, and more than the thousands of dollars that they took and expect to not pay back. I'm happy to accept that reality, but it still doesn't sit right with me. I think if I were put in this situation, I would not be handling it at all like the comments are suggesting they handle it. And I don't know if that is a flaw or not. I just don't think he should get off so easily for the pain that he's caused. I feel like there needs to be so much more that I'm afraid isn't going to happen. Anyway, guys, that's where I'm going to end today's episode. I do hope you enjoyed. If you did, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.